In this deeply personal episode, Jen shares about faith, rejection, and the painful question many believers quietly carry. Am I Christian enough? After her book was not accepted by a Christian bookstore, Jen began reflecting on spiritual belonging, religious expectations, and what it really means to follow Jesus. This episode is an honest conversation about grace, identity, healing, and staying faithful, even when people misunderstand your calling. Welcome to the Wholehearted Impact podcast with Jen Majors, where we talk about healing, faith, identity, purpose, and the courage to live fully alive. If you're ready to break free from what has held you back, renew your mind, and walk in truth, freedom, and wholehearted purpose, you are in the right place. Welcome back to the Wholehearted Impact podcast. I'm Jen Majors, and today's episode is personal. I want to talk about faith with you. Not perfect faith, not polished faith, not the kind of faith that always knows exactly what to say or how to fit neatly into every Christian space. I want to talk about real faith, the kind of faith that wrestles, the kind of faith that asks questions, the kind that gets hurt, the kind that keeps reaching for God, even when people make you wonder if you belong. Today's question is one I think many people have quietly asked themselves. Am I Christian enough? Part 1. The moment that stirred this question. Recently, I had an experience that stirred something in me. My book, Wholehearted Healing, was not accepted into a Christian bookstore here locally. And I want to be careful here because this episode is not about attacking a bookstore. It's not about blaming, and it's not about creating division at all. But it has brought something up for me for real. It really has made me pause. It made me wonder, is my book not Christian enough? Is my story not Christian enough? Is the way I talk about healing not Christian enough? Am I not Christian enough? It really sent me kind of a little bit on a spiral. Last year when this occurred, I really thought, oh man, am I not going to be accepted again into the one place I really want to be accepted? And maybe you have had a moment like this in your life. Maybe someone questioned your faith. Maybe you didn't fit the mold of what a Christian woman or leader, mother, wife, entrepreneur, or minister should look like. Maybe your story is messy like mine. Maybe your healing has included counseling, coaching, trauma work, nervous system work, or language that some people just do not understand. Maybe you love Jesus deeply, but you don't always feel like you belong in certain Christian spaces. That can hurt. It can feel like you're being separated. And I think we need to talk about it. Part 2, the pressure to perform Christianity. There can be a pressure, especially in faith-based communities, to perform Christianity, to look the part, to say the right phrases, have the right answers, never struggle too publicly, never question too honestly, never be too emotional, never be too bold, don't be too soft, never be too successful, never be too broken, never be too much. And somewhere along the way, people begin measuring their faith by whether or not other people approve of it. But approval is not the same as fruit. Fitting in is not what we're called to, and it's not the same as faithfulness. Being accepted by every Christian space is not the same as being accepted by Christ himself. That distinction matters because if we are not careful, we will start living for religious approval instead of spiritual obedience. And that's a dangerous place to live. We're not meant to be accepted by everyone. Everyone is not going to like you, even some Christians, and that's okay. Part 3, Jesus did not always fit religious expectations. When I think about Jesus, one of the things that comforts me is that he didn't always fit in with the expectations of religious people. He healed on the Sabbath. He spoke with the woman at the well. He ate with sinners. He defended the woman caught in adultery. He challenged hypocrisy. He cared more about the heart than the appearance. He was constantly misunderstood by people who thought they had God all figured out. That does not mean we get to do whatever we want and call it God. We still need humility. We still need scripture. We need accountability, wise counsel, and discernment. And it does mean that being misunderstood does not automatically mean we are outside of God's will. Sometimes obedience will be misunderstood. Sometimes your assignment will not fit someone else's category. Sometimes the people who reject your work are not your audience. And sometimes God will use the rejection to clarify who you are really called to serve. Part 4. Faith and healing belong together. One of the tensions I've noticed is that sometimes Christian spaces are uncomfortable with emotional healing work. Words like trauma, nervous system, inner healing, emotional patterns, self-compassion, and embodiment can make some people really nervous. And I don't believe healing and faith are enemies. I believe God created us as whole beings. And trauma, all that means is a wound. And so God intends for us to be healed. When we have an open wound on our arm, He doesn't expect us to ignore that and leave it alone. He doesn't want to get infected. So of course He wants us to seek healing. And we do have a spirit, yes. And we also have this body. This is our human experience. We have to be mindful of it. We have a mind and we have emotions and we have memories and relationships. We have attachment patterns. We have wounds. We have stories, and God cares about all of it. Jesus did not only preach sermons, He healed people. He restored dignity. He asked questions. He noticed people. He wept. He touched. He listened. He told the truth. He brought people back into relationship. That is deep healing. So no, I do not believe emotional healing is unchristian. I believe healing is part of the heart of God. Part 5. What does Christian enough even mean? Let's ask that honest question. What does Christian enough mean? Does it mean you never struggle? Does it mean you only use certain words? Does it mean your testimony is tidy? Does it mean your book fits perfectly on one shelf? Does it mean everyone agrees with your theology, your tone, your process, your personality, or your calling? Or does following Christ mean surrender, love, truth, repentance, grace, obedience, forgiveness, humility, and fruit, a life being transformed by God? I think we have to be very careful when we start measuring people by external religious markers while missing the deeper work God is doing in their lives. Because God sees the heart. People see packaging. God sees surrender. People see branding. God sees obedience. People see whether it fits in their comfort zone or not. And I want to live in a way where God's voice matters more than human approval. Part 6. When rejection becomes refinement. That bookstore rejection hurt, and it also refined something in me. It forced me to ask, who am I trying to please? Is it people or is it God? Who called me to write this book? Did people call me or did God call me? Who am I actually called to serve? What fruit has come from this message? I can tell you the hope I experience from people who hear my story is incredible, powerful, knocks me off of my feet sometimes. Am I willing to keep going even when I'm rejected, even when I might be shunned, even when people don't agree with me? And that's a question for all of us. Can you keep obeying God when people misunderstand you? Can you keep healing when people question your process? Can you keep speaking truth when people want you to be quieter? Can you keep loving Jesus even when Christian spaces hurt you? Can you keep your heart soft without handing your calling over to people who were never assigned to validate you? It can be hard, and it's necessary. Part 7. To the person wondering if they are Christian enough. I want to speak directly to the person who has wondered, am I Christian enough? Maybe you have a past like mine. Maybe you've been divorced. Maybe you've struggled with addiction. Maybe you've struggled with infidelity or porn addiction, and you're terrified to get help. Maybe you have trauma. Maybe you have doubts. Maybe you love Jesus, but church has been really painful. Maybe you're a leader in the church and in crisis and feel you can't ask for help for fear of punishment or being removed in some way. It really brings to my memory a story that I heard. What's his name? Kirk Franklin. He is an amazing gospel singer, has been around for a long time since I've been a Christian. I've been hearing his music. And I remember hearing him be interviewed one time, and he was talking about his struggle with porn addiction. And he was talking about how he kept it in the dark and was so afraid to tell anybody because he was afraid to be shunned by the church. He was afraid to be taken out of position. He was afraid that he would never be able to sell another record. And so that poison just stayed inside of him, that shame, that guilt, all the things that occur when we're holding something so heavy all alone and we don't know how to fix it. And it truly is, it's an addiction that comes from some wound from our past that we're trying to numb, trying to fill. And so he did eventually get counsel and was able to find counsel in the church and talk with somebody about it. And thank God he did, because now he shares that story and gives so many people hope. There's so many people in the world struggling with things like that. And hearing from people, especially leaders, that me too, I've struggled and this is what I did to get help and to get support. And now it's not an issue for me anymore. That's what we're meant to do. That's what we're meant to experience. It makes me so sad that people, especially leaders, feel like they can't share because they're afraid to be shunned or judged or not followed anymore, or whatever the case. That's totally I think the whole reason why I have Wholehearted Healing and I'm doing this podcast, because I see that to be so true amongst all sorts of different genres of work, whether it be church, anybody in leadership struggles with things like this. And I do believe we can love each other. We can meet each other where we're at. God can meet you right where you're at. Maybe you're trying to heal, but you feel like you're doing it wrong. Maybe you do not know all the scriptures to reference. Maybe you're still learning how to pray. Maybe you're still angry about what happened. Maybe you're still grieving. Can I tell you something? Jesus is not intimidated by your humanity. He is not shocked by your questions. He is not afraid of your pain. He's not standing far away saying, clean yourself up and then come close to me. He is the one who comes close. That is the gospel. Grace comes near. Truth comes near. Love comes near. Healing comes near. You do not have to perform your way into God's love. You are invited to receive it. So receive it today, my friends. Part 8. Guardrails matter too. Now, I want to say something clearly. Not every criticism is persecution. Not every rejection means someone is wrong. Not every closed door is spiritual attack. Sometimes we do need correction. Sometimes we do need wisdom. Sometimes we need to evaluate our message, our theology, our language, our heart, and our motives. I want to remain teachable. I want to be accountable. I want to be coachable. I want to honor God with my work. But I do not want to confuse human gatekeeping with God's final word. There is a difference between humble discernment and shame-based doubt. One leads to growth, the other leads to hiding. Part 9, the fruit. So when I ask myself whether this work matters, I look at the fruit. Are people feeling seen? Are people being drawn to God? Are people finding language for their pain? Are people taking steps toward healing? Are people becoming more honest, more compassionate, more courageous, more whole? Are they learning to forgive? Are they learning to stop living in shame? Are they learning to see themselves the way God sees them? That matters. And I believe that is good fruit. If you've ever wondered whether your faith is enough, I want you to sit with this question this week. Am I measuring my relationship with God by His love for me or by other people's approval of me? That question may reveal a lot. And if this episode encouraged you, share it with someone who's felt rejected, misunderstood, or spiritually not enough. You are not loved because you perfectly fit into someone's category. You are loved because God is love. You're loved because God is love. Keep seeking Him. Keep walking humbly. Keep healing. Keep obeying. And keep your heart soft. I'm Jen Majors, and this is the Wholehearted Impact Podcast. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of the Wholehearted Impact Podcast. If this encouraged you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs hope today. For more resources, coaching, speaking, and my book, visit wholeheartedimpact.com.